Okay, so imagine a world where getting older is, well, optional.
Mm.
You know? Like you just don't age.
That's an interesting thought.
Sounds kind of crazy.
It does sound a bit like science fiction.
Well, that's exactly the world that Brian Johnson,
Okay.
this tech entrepreneur
Oh,
who,
go.
sold Venmo, made a fortune.
Yeah.
He's trying to create that world for himself.
Right.
The crazy part is he's spending like $2 million every single year on all these
Oh, 2 million.
cutting-edge health treatments,
Wow.
all to try and reverse his aging,
So he's trying to like hack aging, basically.
basically.
Yeah. Wow.
And, as you can imagine, some people think he's like a visionary,
Yeah.
a real pioneer pushing the boundaries of science,
Right.
while others think he's, well, a little eccentric,
Yeah, I could say
to
that.
put it mildly.
$2 million is a lot of money to be throwing at this.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So in this deep dive, we're going to try to understand what's driving Brian Johnson.
Okay.
What's his motivation here?
Yep.
And we're going to explore this world of like extreme longevity practices
Right.
through the lens of his, daily routine.
Sounds fascinating.
So one of the things that really struck me about Johnson
Yeah.
is this term he uses to describe himself.
Oh, yeah.
He calls himself a professional rejuvenation athlete.
A professional rejuvenation athlete? What does that even mean?
That's an interesting choice of words, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it definitely makes you think.
it does.
So, when we think about professional athletes like LeBron James or Serena Williams,
Right.
they're dedicating their lives to achieving peak physical performance.
Absolutely. They're training constantly eating a certain way.
Exactly.
Their whole life revolves around their sport.
But Johnson's taken that same level of dedication and investment.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of aiming for athletic prowess,
Yeah.
his goal is to, extend his lifespan as much as possible.
So he's basically treating aging like it's a competitive sport.
Exactly.
Wow.
He's constantly training, optimizing his diet,
Yeah.
focusing on recovery,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all with this goal of achieving, biological rejuvenation.
So how does this actually play out in his daily life?
We get this fascinating glimpse into his world through a video he shared.
Okay.
It's a tour of his fridge.
A fridge tour.
Yeah. And trust me, this is not your average fridge with, leftover pizza and a half-empty carton of milk.
I was going to say, whose fridge is that interesting?
Right. So I'm sure you saw the video, too.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, it's packed with all these things I've never even heard of.
I know, like, what was that nutty pudding stuff?
Right. So that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
He's got this stuff called plasmalogens,
That's Plasmalogens.
which are these lipids that naturally decline as we age.
Okay.
And some researchers believe they might play a role in, maintaining cognitive function.
Interesting.
And he has all these microbiome products.
Everyone's talking about gut health these days.
Yeah, exactly. And these are aimed at influencing the gut bacteria,
Right.
which we're learning more and more are linked to, overall health and lifespan.
It's a fascinating area of research.
Absolutely. And get this, he even has a special light therapy setup
What?
for his eyes.
For his eyes, what does that do?
Yeah, so it's all based on this idea of optimizing every single aspect of his biology.
So like biohacking taken to the extreme.
You could say that.
I mean, this is fascinating, but it also seems a bit overwhelming.
Oh, for sure.
Like, where do you even begin with all of this?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Johnson's approach is very much his own.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a pioneer in this uncharted territory
It's true.
of extreme longevity.
Okay, so let's break down some of these things he's doing.
Okay.
Starting with those plasmalogens.
Okay.
How do they actually work? What's the science behind them?
So the research on plasmalogens is still in its early stages,
Okay.
but there's some evidence suggesting that they might help protect brain cells from damage
Mm-hmm.
and also improve communication between neurons.
So kind of like tiny protectors and messengers for your brain cells.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while the research is ongoing, Johnson is clearly betting on their potential.
Makes sense.
And then you mentioned the microbiome stuff earlier.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's talking about gut health these days.
Absolutely. And it's for good reason.
Right.
We're learning that the trillions of bacteria living in our gut.
It's crazy to think about how many there are.
I know it's mind-boggling,
Yeah.
but they play a much bigger role in our health than we used to think.
In so many ways.
Exactly. They can influence everything from digestion to immunity to even our mood.
Wow.
So Johnson's approach with the microbiome is to try and cultivate like a diverse and healthy gut microbiome
Okay.
through diet and supplements.
You're like tending a garden, but inside your gut.
Right.
Yeah,
It's fascinating.
it is.
So it seems like overall, Johnson is taking this very data-driven, almost scientific approach to this whole anti-aging thing.
Oh, absolutely. He's
Yes.
constantly measuring and tracking his biomarkers. Yeah, looking for any signs of aging.
Wow.
And then he adjusts his routine accordingly.
So he's like a walking experiment,
Basically.
which raises some pretty big questions, right?
Of course.
I mean, is this even achievable?
Yeah.
Is he chasing an impossible dream?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, literally.
Right.
Some experts are skeptical, to say the least.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They point out that aging is a complex process, and we're a long way from understanding, let alone reversing it.
Right.
But Johnson believes he can make significant progress
Okay.
by pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It's definitely a bold approach.
It is.
And it's making people think, for sure.
That's for sure.
And one of the things that really strikes me about all this
Yeah.
is the sheer amount of resources he's pouring into it.
Right.
Like, it makes you wonder about the accessibility of all this.
Yeah.
You know, what about people who can't afford a personal chef
Mm-hmm.
and all these cutting-edge treatments?
It's a crucial point.
It is.
Right now, this kind of extreme longevity
Yeah.
is only accessible to a very select few.
Right.
But what happens if these technologies become more widely available?
Good question.
Will it create a whole new level of inequality in society?
Right.
These are ethical questions we can't ignore.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So it really makes you think,
it does.
if you had the chance, would you go to these lengths to extend your lifespan? And what would a world even look like where people could potentially live for centuries?
That's a question for you to ponder.
It is.
The implications are profound.
Yeah.
It touches on everything from healthcare to social structures to our very understanding of what it means to be human.
Wow.
And this is just the beginning.
Right.
We're just scratching the surface of this whole world of radical life extension.
So much more to explore.
There is.
Well, this deep dive has given us a lot to consider
It has.
about the future of aging and the lengths people might go to in pursuit of a longer life. So stay curious, everyone, and we'll keep digging deeper into these fascinating topics in future deep dives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.